All right, so let's continue with our coverage on the upcoming State of the Nation address. Joining us for this discussion are opposition parties, interestingly, not within the GNU, and they are going to tell us tonight what their expectations are. So let's tell you who they are. ActionSA's national chairperson, Michael Beaumont, is with me in studio tonight. The ATM's Vuyo Zungula joins us via the virtual platform alongside the EFF's Mazwi, Blose. To all of my guests, good evening to you. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Let me start in studio. Michael Beaumont, people are tired of Izimbizo and the promises that come from such forums. So let me ask a different question tonight. What should the president avoid in his State of the Nation address on Thursday to not put people off?
Well, I think firstly we've got to talk about the pageantry of the GNU. The idea that 30 million rand is being spent on this tent, the sight of members of parliament walking down the red carpet like they are celebrities in a country of failed politics. This is all stuff that's grossly out of touch with the South African people. But what we need to see differently from the president is really a couple of things. The first is we can't be receiving new promises until we are getting in the sense of where the old promises are being delivered upon. Because every time we have a State of the Nation address, it's bullet trains, it's tin swallows, it's all these creative work of speechwriters who conjure up images to distract us from the fact that the things that were told to us last year have still not been done. We've been on the ground across the country as ActionSA leaders today, talking to South Africans, and it's very clear, South Africans think that this tradition of the State of the Nation address is completely out of touch with their needs, and they're tired of broken promises. They want local government service delivery that's working, and they're turning around and asking us, why is it that this government of national unity is continuing on autopilot the same way the ANC used to govern before?
Interesting, straight to the point. Let's come to you, Mr. Zungula. What should the president avoid in his speech on Thursday?
Evening, Xoli. You know, it's difficult to say what he must avoid. I can tell you exactly what he's going to do on Thursday. He is going to lie to South Africans. He's going to make empty promises, and he's going to gaslight South Africans because he's going to speak as if the lived experiences of South Africans, there is no South Africa of that nature. He's going to lie to South Africa and speak about building a capable state, yet practically in government, he's going to be signing off public-private partnerships. He's going to make empty promises, like he's made promises about building a bullet train, building university in Ekurhuleni, about building a smart city, and all of those things have not materialized. I can tell you now, Xoli, the president has been president of the country since 2018. It is 8 years later. If you look at the lived reality of what South Africa is now, it is a country that is collapsing. If you look at the fact that even people in Midrand, who could have thought, Xoli, that as an urban area like Midrand, you are going to have people lining up in the streets waiting for water. It is the type of country that we are living in. We're having issues now whereby there's mass murders, whereby 20, 30 people are killed in one sitting, and it is happening frequently. Yet the president took the Ministry of Intelligence into his own office. So under President Ramaphosa, one thing that people need to realize, South Africa is collapsing under their watch, and it will take honest South Africans to realize that no matter how good Mr. Ramaphosa is painted in the media, no matter how much good PR he receives, but the lived realities and the state of the country alone, it is showing that he's a failed president because he's failed to improve the lives of South Africans. No matter the metric you use, no matter the indicator that you can check, whether it's in the economy, it is checking poverty, economic growth, any indicator that you can look or judge Mr. Ramaphosa's presidency on, you'll find that it is a dismal failure. So South Africans must just ready themselves for a post-Ramaphosa presidency, because the presidency of Ramaphosa has brought nothing but pain, hopelessness, and poverty to all of the millions of South African citizens.
Sure. Mazwi, Blose, you get to have the last word on what the president needs to do to avoid gaslighting South Africans.
Well, good evening, Xoli, and to the viewers at home. I mean, my colleagues in the studio and Honorable Zungula have articulated very well. And I don't think that there's anything that the president will do to avoid gaslighting our people. He's going to gaslight our people. He's going to come and tell us that there is someone who's a beneficiary of the 350 social grant who has now started a business and they are now a millionaire. That's the president that we have in this country who lies to the people of this country with a straight face. And you get people clapping hands for him. This is a president who comes to a State of a Nation address and tell us that we need to dream. And he inspires South Africans who need jobs, South Africans who are looking for proper healthcare, and tell them that all they need to do is to dream. And he has no account of what he has done over the past years. He always comes in a State of a Nation address as if he's starting afresh. Like my colleagues have said, that he's been a president for 8 years. I think probably even you guys as the media, in the 8 years that Cyril Ramaphosa has been president, you can count the number of times that you've engaged him as a media. That's why that he runs away from accountability. This is the same president who funded his own ANC campaign with R1 billion. Still today, we do not know who his funders is. This is a president who was found hiding money in the couch. And still today, that Pala report is still sitting in the court. It's a president who tells lies. It's a president who gaslights South Africans. It's a president who avoids accountability. He's an absent president who doesn't even, execute his own resolution. Standing right here, we've got a resolution in Parliament to close the embassy of Israel. Cyril Ramaphosa has not executed that. He has not done anything. He will come and promise a GDP growth of about 3% to 4.5%, only to come and advance it downwardly, where we're only sitting with the GDP growth of about 1.5% yearly. This is the same president who wanted to impose VAT on our people, and we had to go and fight that in court. So it's a president who has no leadership skills whatsoever, who is absent from the country. I don't even know where Cyril Ramaphosa is right now. When last did we see him saying anything about anything in this country? This country is in ruins. It's burning. And the crime intelligence of this country is captured. And Cyril Ramaphosa is nowhere. He's going to come on Thursday, put on a smile, and our people, they're going to clap for him, and then he's gone again.
All right. Let's then get to grips with some of the issues that stand out for not just you, but I would like to think for South Africans, stemming from that short story we played before this discussion to some of what Mr. Zungula has actually highlighted here. And I want to repeat his words. It's unthinkable that in an urban area like Midrand, you would see residents lining up for water with buckets in their hands. That stands as a graphic picture, Michael Beaumont, of where service delivery is in the country. But you're not going to escape here with only apportioning blame to Cyril Ramaphosa's administration, because you are also a party that is involved at local government level. What needs to be done, but equally important, what responsibility do you take for sending in councillors who are incompetent to these councils?
Well, I just think a couple of things. ActionSA is not in this government, in the city of Johannesburg, that has created this water crisis.
You're in the city of Tshwane?
We are in the city of Tshwane, and the city of Tshwane has got a track record of reversing a very long legacy of corruption. As a matter of fact, the year and a half in which Dr. Nasipi Moya has been in office, ActionSA and our coalition partners have managed to reverse a number of very serious regressions in that city. The liquidity of the city has doubled. The amount of Metro police is being increased for the first time in 10 years. There are financial stability reports coming out giving positive projections. Eskom debt is coming down. Every indicator shows the city of Tshwane is moving in the right direction. But let me deal with your question. Is that local government is in crisis. And I don't think you should let national government off the hook quite so easily, because yes, some of these municipalities are being led by patently incompetent governments that are failing, like the city of Johannesburg. But nationally, this GNU has come in, and its only solution to the local government crisis, which is probably the greatest constitutional crisis in South Africa right now, is to develop a white paper on local government. That's how out of touch they are with the needs of South Africans. Really what they needed to do was look at the national budget and say we need to fund local government in a way that it deals with the problem at the scale at which it exists. But what did this GNU did? It gave local government 7%. Breadcrumbs falling off the table of the national budget at a time in which a serious statement needed to be made about investing in infrastructure and stabilizing basic services. That didn't happen because this GNU government is really a multi-party implementing agency of the failed ANC politics of the past.
Vuyo Zungula, a different question for you, or a different topic altogether for you, and it's to do with unemployment. What more needs to be done? Employment initiatives we can find many. There are public-private partnerships. There are those that are led by government specifically. There are EPWPs, the Yes Initiative. These I'm trying to highlight to you as part of what they are saying is an attempt to try and give young people hope, in particular those who are graduates, by the way, who sit at home with certificates from universities.
I agree, Xoli. There has been some form of interventions. However, as you're correctly stating, they are not denting the unemployment in our country, particularly because the real way to reduce unemployment, the most proper way to reduce unemployment lies in industrialization, in ensuring that there is mass production of goods locally, like how we saw in the textile industry when there were factories across the country that were producing jobs for South African citizens. Now it is not the case. The reason why you are going to see the likes of BMW, Mercedes-Benz, seeing that maybe they might close shop in South Africa and maybe leave the South African market when it comes to local production. They will not leave alone. They are going to live with jobs. However, you do not find that the president or the ANC government is now being proactive in really ensuring that those jobs that are in the manufacturing sector are protected. The other issue, Xoli, it is regarding how government is spending the 3 trillion budget that it has, but because the government is spending over 80% of the budget, which is close to 3 trillion, on big business, which are not creating jobs, instead of tilting the budget towards being spent on SMMEs that are known to be job creators. And that is a fact, Xoli, because even when it comes to the dominance of big business in the budget of the state, one would not be surprised when even a tender with 900,000, you are going to find a big company such as Bidvest getting those tenders, primarily because the government is not creating a space for SMMEs to thrive in our economy. And the SMMEs are known to be the biggest creators of jobs. And then the last issue is that we've got a private sector that really is profiting from the exploitation of migrants and poor South Africans. Just last week, I was in Newcastle with the Portfolio Committee, and we found a factory there that is employing either illegal immigrants and also employing and underpaying South African citizens. And that factory is actually producing clothes for the likes of Ackermans, Pick n Pay, etc. Now, you find that the private sector in our country has been allowed to get away with murder because they prefer to employ people who are not from South Africa, and they ignore South African citizens because South African citizens are going to be, they have to be paid the minimum wage, and there's going to be the need to comply with the basic conditions of employment, etc. Yeah. Now, the jobs that are there, this private sector is actually preferring the illegal immigrants for exploitation purposes. However, you don't see the government really enforcing that. Let the jobs that are available in South Africa to be prioritized for South Africans, because there is a dire need of really creating jobs for South Africans, because a 43% expanded definition of unemployment rate is catastrophic, because it means almost half of the country's working age population is not finding jobs.
Yeah.
Now, the political will, it is what is missing, because all of these interventions and all of these suggestions, parties have been speaking about them to the president, to the government, but there's no action.
Mr. Blose, again, I'm going to explore a different topic for you, and that's to do with crime and corruption. Interestingly, tonight, as we speak, I think it was the EFF that issued a statement condemning what happened in Windsor East, and that is where a member of the ActionSA party, they're actually sitting with me in studio tonight, was part of an operation to try and rid that community of drugs. At least that's what the ActionSA party has said. Now, they will say to you, what are you doing to try and rid the country of crime and corruption?
Clearly, we cannot in this country promote vigilantism. We can't run around killing people because we accuse them of crimes. It's not allowed. South Africa is a constitutional democracy. There are laws in this country. There's police enforcement in this country. People cannot campaign on the basis of wanting to kill drug dealers. ActionSA must be called out. What their mayoral candidates of Ikorolweni did was wrong. It was illegal. They have murdered a person and they must face the full might of the law. That does not mean that the EFF is promoting illegal drug dealers. That is a different topic. Illegal drug dealers in this country must face the full might of the law. The law must take its course. Law enforcement agencies must do their job. But it's not the responsibility of ActionSA or their mayoral candidates to go around shooting and killing people. It's not allowed. It's vigilantism, and we should condemn it. And you, probably as the media as well, should not condone such acts. That's precisely what is the EFF doing. Probably, we are in the ad hoc committee right now, and we were the one who even had to drag Paul O'Sullivan to come and testify tomorrow. And the president and commander-in-chief of the EFF is going to be there to grill that Paul O'Sullivan, who thinks he's above everyone in this country. Because he must tell us that what is his role in the capture of the criminal justice system of this country. It was the EFF role that insisted on the ad hoc committee that is currently happening now in Parliament, when everyone wanted to run to the Madlanga Commission, which is not going to have any resolutions that are binding on anything. Because right now you have heard even the president has now issued another investigation on top of another investigation on top of another investigation, just to pretend as if they are doing something so that they can buy time for their friends and families to get away with murder. The EFF is at the center of curbing corruption in this country, of curbing crime in this country. Only every month we are picketing outside Palapa, outside the Constitutional Court in protest of the Palapala reports that has been with the Constitutional Court for over a year. And no one is speaking about that. The media is not speaking about that. That the highest court in this country is failing to release a judgment on the president for over a year. That's what the EFF is doing. And we are in protest of that. Every month we are outside the Constitutional Court calling for that. So with the EFF, only everything that we do it within the Constitution, we do it within the boundaries of the law of this country, irregardless of anyone who says what. People can accuse us of all sorts of things, but those who want to hear and listen to the EFF will hear our message, and they will hear that we are a law-abiding organization that respects the laws of this country. We can be irritated with whoever, but everyone must be subjected to the criminal justice of this country. And what ActionSA has done is murder, and it must be condoned.
Mr. Beaumont, I'd like you to respond to that. Are you promoting vigilantism in the country? What is Xoli Mngambi up to?
Well, I think it's always amazing how, given the opportunity, the EFF can find itself siding on the wrong side of the South African people, on this occasion with drug dealers. Because Xoli Mngambi has a very long track record of working with the SAPS to ensure that there are raids conducted on criminals, gangsters and drug dealers in communities across this province in particular. The operation that took place yesterday was led by the SAPS. The suspects who were suspected of dealing drugs, foreign nationals, opened fire and violently attacked the police. There was a shootout. It's believed that the shots that killed the individual in question came from the police. And ultimately, this is a police-sanctioned operation. The reality is that the person who shoots at the police should be taken out. I say that to you unapologetically. You raise a gun to a member of the South African police, you need to be taken out. And it is astonishing that the EFF will come here and try to defend the actions of people who wage war against our communities, deal drugs, deal misery to communities that are suffering, when in truth, the only conversation we should be having is how can we have more Xolani Kumalos? The only reason why he is doing the work that he is doing is because there's a fundamental failure in our criminal justice system. And people who are not out of touch, who understand the situation on the ground, celebrate the work of Xolani Kumalo, because at the end of the day, he is fighting for them, especially when the police in our country are not delivering.
Quick follow-up. If it is the police that fired the shot, why are they not owning up to it, unless I missed the statement?
Well, the police obviously go through a fairly complicated process with ballistics to determine the firearms that were ultimately responsible for the fatal shot. And at the end of the day, that process will take time. I'm talking to Xolani and his team who were there. This is the accounts that they've given us. And we stand by our mayoral candidate because the bottom line is he is fighting the people who are waging war in our communities. If he is waging that fight on behalf of me and other law-abiding South Africans, I celebrate him, and I really can't understand why anyone wouldn't.
Parting shot, Mr. Zungula, you get to have the last word, particularly on issues of crime and corruption.
Xoli, look, if you think about either Mr. Ramaphosa, the ANC, and the GNU, there is no difference between them and criminals. In fact, we've got thugs that are running our country. And these thugs, no matter whether they may be wearing suits, they may be addressing parliament, they may be sitting in the union buildings or running our institution, a thug is a thug. The fact that you are having this level of criminality in our country that is not being addressed, it is because you can't expect thugs to really go after other thugs. You can't expect drug dealers to go and arrest other drug dealers. That is the true nature of South Africa. And it is what I said earlier. South Africans need to come to a realization that the presidents of Mr. Ramaphosa, the ANC and the GNU has brought nothing but misery and pain for South African citizens. They need to accept, South African citizens need to accept that the country under the leadership of these individuals and these parties is, the country is going into ruins. That is why South Africans need to imagine, especially coming to the elections later on in the year, they need to imagine those parties out of governance, either in municipalities, and put in truly patriotic parties, individuals that are going to move the country forward. Because as the thing stands now, you do not have any confidence that the people running our country sympathize even with the pain that we're going through. Oh. Hence, Mr. Ramaphosa on Thursday is going to gaslight South African citizens and make their pain as if it is non-existent, because he's so detached from the lived realities of the people, and at the same time, he is not a person that truly cares about the well-being of the majority of South African citizens who are suffering under his leadership. Oh. But it will take South African citizens to own up and correct the country, because clearly ANC, the GNU, and Mr. Ramaphosa will not fix our country.
Thank you very much for all your contributions tonight from the ATM Party, the EFF, and indeed ActionSA. Thank you indeed for joining us tonight. All right, you've heard the political parties that are outside the GNU and their expectations, or perhaps less thereof.